How does this compare to this? Today we look into striking similarities and differences between Jesus Christ and Buddha, figureheads of their respective religious organizations. In this analysis of East versus West, we dive into three specific themes: the founders, the principles and beliefs, and the physical practices. So, without further delay, let's get into it. The founders. Siddhartha Gautama, better known as Buddha, was born between 560 and 480 BC. He was born into the royal Shakya clan in Lumbini, modern-day Nepal, but left his life of family riches to become a nomadic ascetic or monk to pursue enlightenment. Although his life limited his monetary wealth, what he lacked in money he gained in spirituality and wisdom. He traveled across the Indian peninsula, growing a monastic order for those who sought wisdom into self-understanding and universal connection. His followers called him Buddha, which is the masculine form of the word Bud, which means awakened one, as if a flower opening its petals from the bud. Not much is known otherwise about Buddha's personal life, as there is no known text from his days on Earth. In fact, the oldest surviving Buddhist manuscripts are the Gandharan Buddhist texts found in Gandhara, or modern-day Pakistan and eastern Afghanistan. They date from the 1st century BCE to the 3rd century CE. Jesus Christ. Born in Bethlehem in the year 0, I just had to say that, Jesus Christ, whose real name is Yeshua ben Yosef, was the founder of Christianity. He grew up in a family with royal ties to the line of David, and most likely studied under the Jewish mystery schools, starting at a young age. Not much is written about Jesus between the ages of 13 to 30, well, at least according to the canonical Gospels, but much has been written about his 3-year ministry later in life. He left his comfortable life at home to pursue a monastic lifestyle, gaining followers along his travels around Judea. So, here we have two spiritual leaders, separated in life by just a few centuries, who were born into royal families and walked away from their old lives to pursue a new one filled with poverty, sharing their teachings with others, and working towards true enlightenment. Both have, well, scarce accounts on most of their life, which leaves a sense of mystery to those learning about them millennia later. But what exactly were these teachings that these enlightened ones taught, and how different yet similar are the principles of their respective orders? Principles and core beliefs. The principles of Christianity, like Judaism and Islam, are partly based in the 10 Commandments: one God, don't blaspheme God, participate in holy days, honor your family, don't kill, cheat, lie, steal, or envy your neighbor's property. Jesus taught peace and love, being humble and not bragging. He also taught the importance of understanding the evils of overindulgence, with such quotes as, "Blessed are those who are poor, for yours will be the kingdom of God," and "It is easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to enter the kingdom of God." Jesus also teaches the importance of decision-making and personal actions. The Beatitudes are a great example as to the true essence of what Christ was bringing to his followers. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst after righteousness, for they shall be satisfied. Blessed are the merciful, for they shall obtain mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called children of God. Blessed are those who suffer persecution for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Every one of these tenets laid out by Christ are guidelines which begin with an action and end with a reward for completing the said action. If you are pure in heart, you will see God. If you are humble, you will be received into God's kingdom, and etc. In Buddhism, there is 5 precepts which are refrain from taking a life, not killing any living being, refrain from taking what is not given or stealing from anyone, refrain from the misuse of the senses, not having too much sensual pleasure, refrain from wrong speech, and refrain from intoxicants that cloud the mind. These are basic rules laid out by Buddha, laws if you will. There are also the Four Noble Truths. These four truths are the essence of the teachings of Buddha. They include the truth of suffering, the truth of the cause of suffering, the truth of the end of suffering, and the truth of the cause of the end of suffering. There is much to be interpreted about these rules, but the basis is that humanity's right to free will can be used in both positive and negative ways. Every choice we make has a cause and effect, both to the suffering itself and to the end of said suffering. There is also the belief in karma, which, to be honest, has been tainted by the Western world. Karma does not refer to predetermined fate, but rather an idea close to the butterfly effect. Actions, such as killing, stealing, and other heinous crimes, will ultimately result in later unhappiness, whereas good actions, such as charity and kindness, will manifest into joy and happiness. Both Buddhism and Christianity serve to increase the happiness of their followers by following rules of self-preservation, overall genuine care for the self of others, and the rewards that come with following the principles laid out by their leaders. In Buddhism, they say, "Do not kill a living being," and in the Bible, we say, "Thou shalt not murder." Buddhism says, "Refrain from taking what is not given," and the Christianity way of saying it would be, "Thou shalt not steal." The Four Noble Truths of the Buddha are the understanding of what causes suffering and what causes suffering to end, which is a reverse wording of the Beatitudes, where one is performing an action that is, in a way, suffering, but in the end receives a reward for these pious actions. And in regards to karma, Christianity has a long-standing tradition of telling its followers, "Follow these laws laid out by God and Jesus, and you will be saved." The core of karma in Buddhist and Christian tradition allows the individual to reach nirvana, which is full enlightenment, or what the Western world calls heaven. The Webster Dictionary definition of nirvana is a transcendent state in which there is neither suffering, desire, nor sense of self, and the subject is released from the effects of karma and the cycle of death and rebirth. Sounds a lot like heaven, doesn't it? The third theme that I would like to talk about is the physical practice. A few years ago, I had the privilege of traveling to Southeast Asia, more specifically Vietnam, where Buddhism is the most practiced religion in the country. I visited a few pagodas or Buddhist temples and quickly realized some similarities in physical practice to Christianity. First off, a pagoda is a physical location for worship. However, many practice Buddhism at home using small altars in the main room of the house. A follower of Buddha removes their shoes and prays before the said altar, in silent meditation. It is very common to see a person in a meditative state, placing their hands together and bowing before the statue of Buddha. Incense may also be used, as well as the use of bells, to resonate tones that pierce through the ear and massages the inner soul. In Christianity, at least according to my Catholic upbringing, we too meet at a temple of sorts, usually in the form of a church, cathedral, or shrine. I remember going to my grandmother's house and seeing a small console table that was covered in statues of the Virgin Mary, various saints, and candles. This type of home altar reminds me of the ones I saw in Vietnam, but with different figures, of course. Additionally, on specific holidays such as Easter and Christmas, a blend of sweet incense was used as a way of offering our prayers to God, which mirrors the Buddhist practice as well. During the segment of the Mass where the priest consecrates the bread and wine for communion, all Catholic churches use a bell rung 3 times in succession to denote the power of the Trinity, emulating the way Buddhist temples use bells to enhance meditation. The original hand gesture used in the time of Jesus for prayer more closely resembled a pretzel shape than the current way we see today, but over time the use of hands placed together when praying has shifted into an identical way to many other religious organizations. There is some kind of spiritual resonance one feels when placing their hands together during silent prayer, and because of this raw emotion, we see the faithful of the world using this gesture all over the globe. My final statement in this video relates more specifically to my Masonic practice, so for those Masons who may be watching this part's for you. Without going too much into detail, we have a saying in Freemasonry that really intrigued me from the start. The saying goes, "From west to east and back to west again. Why did you leave the east, the source of all light? In search of the Master's word." It is my personal belief that this alludes to the esoteric theory that many philosophical greats throughout Western history have traveled to the Eastern world and brought back wisdom shared with them there. King Solomon himself was alleged to have traveled to Asia and learned from some of the mystery schools. Many of the Greek and Roman philosophers also found themselves traveling east to receive a new perspective on philosophy, crossing the boundaries between cultural wisdom. We do not know much about what Christ did in the middle years of his life, at least according to the accepted Gospels, but it would not be entirely out of the question to suggest that as a traveling man whose entire life revolved around spiritual wisdom and philosophy, that he would travel to foreign lands and find interest in the Eastern school of thought, which would have expressed to him the teachings of Siddhartha Gautama, the Enlightened One. I am not suggesting that these two religions are the same, nor that Christ was another Buddha who changed the name of Buddhism to create a similar Western religion, but I do believe that there is a chance that much of what makes up Christianity as we know it today has been based off of, or at least influenced, by pre-existing religion and philosophy. Thank you for joining us on another edition of the Eleusinian Society. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you'd like to see more videos. Thank you.